Devil in a red dress. Call 911, I'm a killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang, bang, got my hand on the trigger. The devil in a
Hello,
red
Trabant.
dress.
Hello, Tito.
What are we going to talk about today?
Today we are going to talk about something that I always wanted to talk about for a long time, and the topic is Chinese culture.
Wow, interesting.
When you hear Chinese culture, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Oh God, what a question. I have to say that before I started to learn about China and before I came to China, I had these extremely embarrassingly stereotypical ideas about China. Um, I would think of people practicing kung fu and tai chi chuan in parks, or think about old Chinese paintings and people eating with chopsticks and these really embarrassing things. But obviously, this is just something that's on the surface. And if you have the chance to visit China and learn more about China, experience the Chinese society from um, different kind of aspects, your perception starts to get a little more varied. It starts to evolve, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because seeing like people practicing kung fu, or it's just tourist thing in China right now. You cannot really go outside of the city and see these people. It's like going to Australia and thinking that, yeah, probably you'll see kangaroos running on the streets and everywhere.
Right, right.
So this became more like a precious thing to see or experience in China. Yeah, for me, the Chinese culture is also about art and the great achievements that China did over the last centuries, which were great. But living in China, for me, is mostly about customs and social behavior of the people. And this is what I would like to talk about today.
All right. Well, great. Let's dive right into it.
Okay, let's go for it. So I would say that very two strong, two very strong feelings that Chinese people have are respect the hierarchy and very very strong sense of family, so-called filial piety.
Right.
Would you agree? Would you agree with me?
I think so. In some ways, filial piety is an example of these relationships in society, which, in at least in traditional Chinese thinking, are never quite equal. Somebody is always um, above in terms of education or age or wealth. Usually, it's seen as a positive relationship, but it can turn into something negative in practice, unfortunately.
Yeah, for me it's more like a burden, actually. Like many Chinese people, when they talk about respect for the family and the family obligations they have, it sounds like they are saying that they are better than let's say Western society. But in fact, in my opinion, it's a very very heavy burden they have to carry all their life. Sometimes it has very bad effect on their uh, on their mental health.
You're saying that the fact that Chinese children have to take care of their parents, and this has a very negative effect on maybe not just on the children themselves who are burdened with this, but maybe also on their own children.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's what I want to say. Like taking care of your family because you are expected to take care of
I
your
understand.
family. Also, they are perfectly fine to take care of themselves, but the parents or the grandparents are kind of giving you maybe daily chores they can do by themselves, like cleaning up or doing shopping or just taking them to the doctor, which they can do perfectly fine by themselves. Is is becomes nuisance.
I understand, right. Well, I think it
Yeah.
depends on the individual families because oftentimes the grandparents, if they are retired, they might try to do some things around the house because the parents who are of working age, they are expected to go to work and provide for the family. Maybe spend as much time as they can working and making money. And again, this is not necessarily something that's positive either.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the old people, I mean people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, in China they retire very early. Even they have no pension, or they can get some little pension when they reach the actual retirement age. They retire earlier. So the reason for it is either they have one daughter which doesn't need apartment to get married, or they just have enough money to buy apartment for their son to get married, because in China the man must buy apartment. If the man doesn't have money to buy apartment, so he has two choices: either he doesn't get married, or he can marry some ugly Chinese girl that nobody wants, or she's over 30 years old, and then probably her parents agree that their daughter, spinster daughter, is okay to marry this penniless guy.
Maybe this is why I never got married in China. Yeah. Or again, if a woman is divorced, you might see a lot of, well, not a lot, but some foreigners might marry women who have already been divorced. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Then also it's probably okay not to have money to buy apartment.
And keep in mind the daughter might already have an apartment.
Yeah, she might be rich, but in any way, either the woman is rich or has apartment, or she's not exactly perfect stock in the market. There will be always respect for the husband. So he will be reminded that he was not able to financially look after the family.
That's a good point. It really does seem to hint at that a lot of these relationships are viewed through power or resources.
This is a huge, big pressure, big pressure that many men, Chinese men, must deal with in China. Also, another thing, actually, living in China for so many years, I would say that the old ways are somehow surviving. It's very difficult to go away. Like let's say in the 70s or 80s, when a woman got married in China, the woman belongs to the new family.
Oh,
So she was shown her place. So for example, there was some big family gathering. She was asked to sit in the corner at the table, and I'm not talking about I'm talking about last century. I'm talking about the 80s. She
Yeah,
was
I see.
asked to sit in the corner. Why? No reason. She was just the old people decided that the mother-in-law decided that okay, this is what they did to me. Or when I got married, so I did this to her, and I just keep and basically nobody is happy. The new wife is not happy. She is fighting for her place at the main table. And eventually, after 2 years, when she's allowed to sit there, she feels like she achieved some victory. And she is just so happy to embrace this Chinese culture. And probably she will do the same thing with her, if she has a son, with her daughter-in-law.
You hit the nail right on the head. Yes, eventually, once she yeah, gains more power, she turns into the same thing that she didn't like when she was young. And this is big. This is a big topic in Chinese society. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. It is a big topic, but not nobody talks about in China. They talk about it. For example, between friends, when they meet, they I don't know, the ex-classmates from high school, they meet and they will talk about the things they experienced in their new family, and they are complaining about that, but they don't tell you unless you become friends with them, and they are not very willing to open these, I would say, dark secrets of that every family has in China.
Oh, because it's embarrassing for them. Yeah.
It is embarrassing. It is embarrassing to talk about it in front of foreigners. Like in China, if there is
Also true.
anything that must be covered and never ever talk about, because they feel like they are losing face, or they always feel like their society, I don't know why, they just keep saying that.
Yeah, not just in
That
front of foreigners. I mean, they cover it in front of other people in general. But other Chinese people would have grown up in the culture, so they would have a deeper understanding of what might be going on.
Yeah, but deeper understanding is not they understand why it's done. Understanding is that they think that we should understand why they do it. But there is nothing to understand. They just do things because they were doing them for generations.
Yeah, good
And they
point.
are, but they cannot adapt. They cannot adjust. But why cannot adjust to the new time? They are adjusting, but slowly. And they cannot adjust because the kids depend financially on their parents, and the parents, they keep them on leash. So for example, you go
Yeah.
to study to a big city, and then you kind of become independent,
You're
right?
finally free. This is why most Chinese college students, if they have the option, they would choose to study away from their hometown, so they can
Yeah,
finally be on their own a little bit.
yeah, yeah. They're finally free. They learn how to look after themselves because their parents been spoiling them and basically serving everything on a silver platter for them. And finally, they have to look after themselves. So maybe the first 6 months are very difficult for them, but eventually they learn and they start enjoying themselves. And after they graduate, they will stay in the big city for 2 3 years. And if they don't find a boyfriend for girls or girlfriend for the boys, they are asked to come back to their village or to the smaller town, because they already have like 3 4 5 guys. Actually, they are also single, and they try to uh, match them.
Hook them up, yeah, with
Yeah,
potential partners, so that they can, so that the grandchildren can, so that the grandparents can have grandchildren.
yeah. And there is another big pressure, not only on girls but also on boys, that when they reach particular age, could be 26, 27, 28, they start panicking, and suddenly they I feel like it's very selfish. It's like children in China are considered being kind of this social insurance. They usually get asked, who will look after you when you get old? And they are right, because the government won't. They will get very little pension. They maybe they will save some money, but for their parents and grandparents, it's difficult to understand how they are going to survive if they don't have their own kids to look after them.
Yeah, I mean, really considering how much Chinese GDP has risen over the past few decades, I don't know if there's been a proportionate rise in these pensions. And what's more is that for several decades, the Chinese Communist Party instituted a one-child policy. So that means for a lot of generations, there will be only one child to take care of their parents.
One child, one child policy. Yeah, that's another topic we can talk about for a long time. Yeah, in 2016 it was cancelled to two-child policy, and 2018 because they didn't see any effect, they changed it to three-child policy.
It's very ironic because in a lot of other Asian countries, or for example, let's look at South Korea. This development was natural. They gradually moved on from having more children to having fewer and fewer children. So this change would have occurred in China anyways. But this is a very beautiful example of communist not planning but misplanning in this case of trying to adjust the natural development of things in a way that might eventually hurt the society.
Yeah, it really backfired. It really backfired. Like a friend of mine, a girl who was born in the 80s, she was going to be born as the second child, so she had to be aborted.
Wow.
But her parents decided that they will save her life. So her mother, they were hiding her pregnancy, and she traveled to her brother and to another town, and there she gave birth. And then she left her child with her brother, so her brother looked after her.
So he essentially adopted her as her own child, right?
He didn't officially adopted her. He was just like he had a daughter, so
Oh.
he was raising them together with his own daughter.
So how did it work out? Because in many cases, if you had a child born during the one-child policy, a second child, and you weren't divorced or the child was healthy, it would be very difficult to enter that child into the social system, into the hukou system, so that it might be difficult to register the child in a school or different kinds of institutions.
Yeah, I asked her the same question, and she said her uncle was very clever, and her uncle apparently bought the hukou. I don't know how it's possible to transfer hukou from one child to another. Somebody else's child died,
Wow.
and he bought the hukou from this dead child, and he was
Really?
using this hukou for her so she could enroll to school and get her, I don't know, the ID and everything.
Wow, unbelievable. So it seems like there would be a kind of a quota of how many children can be, and people can trade around according
Yeah,
to what
sounds
they
like
need.
that.
God, that is messed up.
Sounds like they buried the child in secrecy and just kept the hukou, because if you announce that, oh, my child died, they would probably take the hukou from you.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I don't know
I think that
how
was,
this would work in practice, but
everything
anyways,
was
it worked
corruption.
kind of.
If you have money, you pay the right people. I mean, yeah, it could be done. It could be
I
done. So this
understand.
is how it works.
Yeah.
And I remember, and then she was kind of considering, because of the filial piety, she was telling me how her uncle is like a father to her, and she was kind of looking down on her father, like, my father couldn't look after me, my uncle look after me. This is twisted thinking. But she wasn't thinking, she was just telling me like how she is faithful and loyal to her uncle now. And she was telling me the story that when she was already maybe 20 and her parents traveled to visit her uncle, and they were talking. At some point, I don't know if her father started feeling very uncomfortable, like because he just wanted his daughter back. But
Oh,
suddenly felt like he was more attached to her uncle, and he felt like has to do something. He has to do something, he was losing face.
right.
So he stood up and he just walked to the closest bank or ATM, and he withdrew money from the bank, which was the same bank as in his hometown, but because he was in another city, he had to pay like extra fees.
Oh yeah, that was this policy some time ago.
And he came back to the table with 10,000 RMB, and he put this 10,000 RMB in front of the uncle and said, "Here is for raising my daughter."
What the heck?
Yeah. And then probably, if it was me, if I was the uncle, I would feel sorry for this guy, and I was thinking about it. I would take the money just to make him feel comfortable. But
Okay.
nope, not in China. Children are social policy. The uncle probably wanted to keep the daughter closer, show how strong he is. And he is the leader of the family. So he refused the money. So you can
Oh, you think
imagine
so,
how
yeah?
probably you can imagine what was happening there. They were probably just they're pushing each other and take the money. I don't want the money.
Ah,
And
yeah, I can imagine the scene. Absolutely.
this game was probably going on for a few minutes, and he didn't take the money.
Uh huh.
Didn't take the money. And
So you're
funny
saying
thing
that
is, I
because
was
in a certain sense, the girl, now that he has raised her and grown up, now she would be more valuable, for example, for him and his wife to take care of them when they would be older.
she married to Australian guy. She is living in Australia. So probably the uncle is thinking right now, wow, that was a good move.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a social insurance for the Chinese people, and I'm not blaming them for that. I'm not blaming them for that because they've been living in this society for hundreds of years. Yeah.
I understand, but I mean, this is really anachronistic and
And she
not
didn't
how
didn't
people
even
should be
see
treated.
anything wrong about it. She would never complain. She wouldn't say like, my government wanted to kill me. This thought would never come to her mind. They don't see very far. They will.
Well,
What
I don't think anybody talks about the policy like this in China.
You cannot blame the government because you don't read about it. You in class you don't talk about it anywhere. So
Hmm.
yeah, just keep them, you know, keep it's out of their mind.
Wow.
Like another story comes to me. Like it's not related, but it's also funny. Like I was meeting my Chinese teacher once, and in a cafe, and we talked about, I don't know, at some point she said, Chinese people are the most peaceful people in the world.
Where did she come up with that? Or
Yeah, I asked
did
her,
she give you an example? Like, or how did that even come up in the conversation?
no, they never used an example.
Okay.
And I was like, but I read the Chinese history, and there were just war after war. There were military
Yeah.
campaigns to conquer Korea several times, Vietnam several times. There were battles then when 800,000 soldiers on one side was fighting,
Really huge
and
battles. Yeah. Maybe some of
because
the
they had lots
largest,
of people.
yeah,
I
largest
know.
battles in history.
Yeah, because they had
that
big
time.
population, so they had more soldiers. That's what I understand. But result of some of the battles was like 90% of the soldiers dead.
My
The
goodness.
emperor was willing to sacrifice 90%. And I'm telling her, like, I read the history and there are just battles after battles. I mean, how can you say you are peaceful? You were conquering right and left, north, south, east.
Good
You know,
point.
anybody
That's a good
will-
point. Yes.
And she became like very agitated. She became shaking. She was shaking, and she became so angry, and she was She stopped talking English because we talk about this in English. And he went, he switched to Chinese.
Wow.
And she started shouting at me like, do you know China? You don't know China. And there were people sitting around. There were Chinese people sitting around us.
So that looks
Actually,
bad for you then. That
there were
situation.
half a meter any direction. There were Chinese people sitting. And I was thinking, like, if these people stand up and start lynching me, I mean, I will die.
Yeah, you will be the one to blame. No, no, no.
But I was so stupid. I thought, like, no, she misunderstood me. But she understood me very well. She just had no arguments. She was just really believing this greatness of her nation. And there is this foreigner who's been living for so many years, and he's saying that literally, I only said I read a history. There are wars after wars. I didn't say anything else. I didn't talk about Tiananmen. I didn't say anything else.
And you weren't saying
I
that.
just
Why would she get offended? I mean, she's not the one being violent here. you know.
because and she was used to talking to foreigners.
Oh
She
wow.
was used to
Yeah.
foreigners. If I talk to somebody who is not used to foreigners and I would say something like that, they would be quiet. They really wouldn't know what to say. But she was used to it, and that was her reaction. So eventually, I was smiling. I was like, because I was really afraid that somebody would do something to me around. Somebody attack me.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, come on, no, you don't understand me. I was doing this,
Okay.
just to save my life. And eventually, she was like, I cannot stay here anymore. And she stood up. Okay, and I cannot talk to you. And she left, fortunately.
Okay, I have a theory. She acted like this because she ran out of arguments and because you attacked something that she held true and dear, right? She has probably been listening to this for a long time from the Chinese government because the Chinese government does have this idea, does try to put forward this idea that Chinese people are peaceful and everybody else is hurting us. To very simplify this, but we are never the evil ones or the bad ones doing something, and we never were, right? So she had a very positive image, and you sort of blackened it in her eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Wow.
Probably she couldn't. She wasn't ready for it. She couldn't handle the truth. And I was telling her like, no, we are the same. This is what actually was my like a conclusion.
I understand, right? Yeah.
No, we are the same. We are the same people. I mean,
Essentially, all countries are like this.
no, we are not the same. We are better than.
Well,
That's what she was saying. Unbelievable. There are lots of stories about foreigners living in China, and they got married, and they experienced something that they could never imagine they would experience. They experienced
so
health,
sort of a strong clash of cultures. Yeah.
clash of civilizations.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, unbelievable. Do you know this story? You told me about this
Oh,
story about
this was yeah, this was well mentioned in media outside of China as well because this happened to a foreigner, Michael Simpson, who got killed by his Chinese ex-wife.
Wow. Why?
Well, they got divorced. He started living with another woman after they got divorced, and the children were living with them. I don't know what exactly made the ex-wife come into their apartment, and but the point was she would kill him. She would try to hurt his girlfriend. I don't know if this was some weird jealous moment that happened because this happened a few years after they got divorced,
Right.
or whether they were arguing about something related to their children. Who knows?
So she just killed him.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? Your ex-wife coming in and stabbing you.
Yeah.
My God. At least she didn't hurt the children, so she wasn't like Medea um, completely. But, anyways, after his death, his parents would wanted to have custody over their children. But the ex-wife who went to prison, she uh, gave she tried to give custody to her parents so they would
Right.
be able to become the guardians of the children.
So the parents of the wife that murdered the father of the children were now looking after their grandchildren.
It's a little bit weird, isn't it?
It's very weird.
But obviously,
Very weird.
the foreigner who got murdered, his parents would want custody of the children. So we were entering into a weird custodian battle, and eventually the Chinese court would allow them to have one child, but not the other.
Let me guess. The daughter.
How did you
Yeah.
guess? Yes.
Because daughter is worth less than the boy.
Yeah, unfortunately, you see this a lot after Chinese divorces, that the man often doesn't want to
In
keep the girl.
China, if you get divorced and you have a son, usually the husband takes the son, because if the wife is still in reproductive age, her parents, or she hopes that she will get married again and have another child and give another child to her new husband.
I see.
So she doesn't want her son to be with her. She willingly gives her son to her husband. But if it's a daughter, husband doesn't want the girl because he is hoping, I mean, during the one-child family policy, it was like that he is hoping he would have a son with his new wife.
Wow.
So this is typical. And this
Absolutely
article actually,
crazy.
so these grandparents actually managed to pay money so they could take with them to the UK the girl.
Oh, they had to pay them.
They had to, yeah, it's written here.
Wow.
They paid him, I forgot how much, but I don't know, like 50,000 pounds. They sold, basically the grandparents sold
I
their
see.
granddaughter. And I don't know how much they were asking for the boy, because in China you can buy children.
Yeah, this is really messed up.
This is, this also explains why so many kids are kidnapped every year in China.
Yeah.
And
There
sold
have been
to
a
some
lot of instances of child kidnappings.
6,000, 8,000 RMB you can buy a child from these kidnappers. So that's why Chinese are very afraid when they go outside with their kids. They are looking out because they are just watching out for kidnappers who can snatch the kid into a van and just drive
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
This is very common in China. This is very common in China.
It's insane.
And the government is not doing much about it. Once the child missing, what can they do? They are not going to the villages look for the kids. So this boy apparently is still lives in China.
So it hasn't been resolved, right? I mean, or the situation is as it was because of COVID. They
No.
probably wouldn't be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, no, nothing.
My
And
goodness.
yeah, there was a funny story that you told me, like when they were at the court, that these grandparents from the UK
Yeah.
to China, and these uncles of this woman that killed their son. The uncles came to them, and
Oh.
they were talking like, no, you should feel sorry for her. Why? She just lost her husband.
What kind of an argument is that? She killed her husband.
Argument of a crazy guy. Crazy guy says, please have mercy on
Or
the soul of this
some
woman.
people who want to have get something out of it. right? Because if the
This is
grandparents would have accepted sort of her apology or something like that, she could
this is
get
a
maybe
Chinese
10
logic.
years, 10 years. This is something in law, in Chinese law as well. You can get years off your legal sentence if
Yeah.
an apology
If
is
you forgive
accept
it.
isn't yeah if
Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
apology is accepted by the side that was hurt.
And they ask for it. They say, "We give you the daughter, but you must write a letter
I see.
of forgiveness,
Yeah.
for forgiveness for our daughter who murdered your son. If you write a letter of forgiveness, and if you pay us this 40,000 pounds, you can have the girl."
It's weird. I mean, well,
This is
I wonder
this is
how the
China.
judge makes the decision then, right? I mean, if you know
Well,
once one side does something, then the judge should let you know ask the other side to do something as well.
the legal system in China is faulty. Is faulty.
So you think
It's not working,
it's difficult as a foreigner who doesn't understand the system to you know be able to function in it.
especially for foreigner. And I believe the Chinese court inclines to take side with the Chinese person against the foreigner.
Yeah, that might be true.
You really need probably a good lawyer, to get a fair hearing, a fair trial.
Yeah, and then yeah, there are instances you know where foreigners were able to accomplish some small legal things in their legal battles. But yeah, you definitely need a good lawyer and not just someone who you know tells you a tale and then takes your money and then leaves you hanging, leaves you to do most of
Yeah,
these things by
yeah.
yourself, which is very difficult to
I
do.
believe. I believe even your lawyer can be bribed by the other side,
Yeah,
to
that
give you
these are
take
all
you wrong advice.
these are the more shady things in Chinese society. Bribery is you know, quite common. In spite of the
Very
harsh
common.
punishments, it's impossible to eradicate in China so
But
far.
But also another lesson we can take from this case of Michael Simpson is that the how the health problem about the health problems in China, the mental health problems are very serious in China, and nobody is
Oh,
addressing them.
yes. Well, you know how I feel about this, because you don't see a lot of not just people with mental problems out in public in China, but not even many disabled people outside in China. You don't see a lot of them, and I think this
No,
has to do with the state not wanting to show, maybe not just the state, maybe also the society, but in general, not showing the you know the true state
well,
of the society. They want to, especially the state would
we
want to
go back
appear
to that.
strong, healthy, productive, and so forth. You do
No,
see
no, the children don't exist. They were killed. They were aborted during the one-child policy.
this is also
If
true. You're right. Yeah,
they took, yeah, they took all the exam of the wife, and if there was any doubt about the physical or mental health of the
very good
child,
point.
it would be aborted right away. So the children were killed. The children don't exist. If they exist, there are very few of them, and they don't have many institutions where you can use for your child.
Yeah. But even
I, I
generally disabled, or even all you know people who are disabled, who are for whom it's
maybe
who have mobility problems when they're older, it's still
honestly in China, maybe
not shown in public too much.
every third month, I see a child, no, maybe 20 years old, boy or girl with Down syndrome.
Wow.
Every 3 months, I can see one somewhere. Maybe it's still the same one, but I just don't remember. They don't exist. They are not here. And where are they? What institutions China has?
I'm sure they have some, but well, they're not seen in public as like because of what you said, because they might not exist, and the society and the state doesn't want to show them too much. If you look at other socialist countries in the past, they also wanted to present this image of a healthy society, and people who were sick, injured, or that had whatever wrong with them, they were supposed to be inside. The family was supposed to be taking care of them, and they were not supposed to be shown in the society too much.
No, no, they don't. They don't. They want to take this burden of the people. So, because, they don't have money. So they would start maybe. No, they don't want. They don't want that. It was difficult to explain to the people they can have only one child, and the child is disabled mentally or physically. Why they cannot have another one? So
Well, I think in that instance they would be allowed to have another child. Maybe not always.
right, right. It could be done like that. Yeah. Anyway, now we have 3 children policy, and
Now it seems like more is better. Yeah.
right, all the better now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, when you think about how respect for family and how Chinese people like saying that family is everything for them. How could they get brainwashed, believing that one child is the right way?
Right. Yeah. I guess they had no choice but to accept the dictate of the state.
Yeah, they do. But eventually, the phase 2, will they believe that? They believe it is the right way.
Huh.
You don't hear Chinese people saying, "Oh, that was such a stupid policy. What we did. That was a big mistake. The government is bad." No, you don't.
Well,
hear anything
how
like
does the government then explain them that now they should have more children that they couldn't have before?
It's okay because people have very short memory. They forget what they said 3 months
yeah,
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess you're right.
People just switch. Yeah, the short-term memory. That's my answer.
Totally crazy.
Lots of cases like that. And yeah, they keep saying that they care so much about the grandparents, but another story from a friend of mine, like he got married and everything was fine. He even helped his parents-in-law to buy a house. He bought one house, then he bought them to buy another house.
Okay.
Everything was fine. But at some point, right, actually after his wife gave birth, she suddenly changed her attitude towards her husband for no reason.
Because she already had children, so now that the husband is not quite as valuable anymore, or what do you think is the case?
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the top. Blood relation is very important in China. If you are blood
I
related,
see.
then you can be asshole, you can do bad things in the family, but they will always at some point forgive you, and because family blood relation is important for Chinese people. So if you are a foreigner, yes, obviously you are not related, and plus you are really not related. So at some point they just start treating you like shit, and for no reason. He told me that his mother at some point, because they had like 2 kids, she told him that, "Wow, I know you like this kid and you more than you like the other kid."
What the hell? How did she come up with that?
I don't know. He didn't know. He was shocked. He was shocked, and he was trying to explain to her, and she got really crazy, and eventually he said he just told her, she kind of shouted at her like, how do you know? You have only one child. How do you know how it is to have two children?
Yeah,
And
good
she
question.
and she
Right.
physically attacked me. She
What
physically
for?
attacked
What?
me.
Was it also because she ran out of arguments?
Mental health problem.
My
Mental health
goodness.
problem. And the actually the this story has no ending. His wife eventually she came to him and she apologized, but like
Okay.
3 weeks later she denied everything and she was like, "No, my mother was right. You like this child more than the other child."
They probably
And he said
told
like,
her something at home. Yeah.
and he said like, remember like 1 year ago? Actually, his wife started kind of saying like this, like 1 year ago, and she said, "You like my daughter B more than daughter A." And year after, she said, "You like daughter A more than daughter B." So she was switching. She was switching.
What the
She
hell?
wasn't even consistent like, sh and it was making no sense. It wasn't truth. It was just made up story. But eventually, in China, if you want to be angry with anybody, like the Jewish people say, if you want to beat a dog, you find a stick.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So she was looking for arguments at this point. Yeah.
And for no reason. And I
Right.
think the main reason was he said his wife became she was kind of lazy and she was spoiled. And during the pregnancy, she was complaining like every day, like, "Oh, you don't have to give birth. I have to give birth."
Oh, okay.
It was like generation of Chinese women. I mean, giving birth, and eventually this one child generation comes up, and they say, "Oh, it's unfair. I have to give a birth." There was nothing else.
Wow.
And after giving birth, I cannot look after my child. I need my mother, and
But then what do people whose parents might have passed away? What do they do? They have to look after their children.
yeah.
And another question is, I mean, you want to have a say in how you raise your children as well.
No, they don't understand. Chinese people, young or old, they don't understand anything about the new ways on how to raise children. They believe that they are clever enough and they believe there's nothing wrong with my way I was raised. They have no doubts.
I mean, I
They
understand you want your grandparents to take to take care of the children as well if they're retired, and that's well and good. But what if the grandparents maybe aren't quite as educated as you are?
No, they are not.
You know
But
what I mean?
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The less educated you are, the more you believe that your way must be the right way. It's a formula.
Maybe
It's a
yes.
basic
Maybe
formula
that's a good point.
that works everywhere in the world, not only in China.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess you're right.
Plus
Wow.
the one-child policy, mental health problem, no blood relations, everything when you combine together, disaster, big disaster. And they slip to this cliche. They keep saying like, "Oh, when they are calm, they say, 'Oh yeah, child needs father and mother. Oh, father and mother shouldn't argue in front of the children.'" And then they break all the rules.
So they talk about them, but they break
In
them
the
all the time.
next 5 minutes, they might start shouting in front of the kids. They might start saying that, "Oh, we don't need you," or anything. They just switch. Yeah, just like that. They have like a very convenient switch, or maybe several switches. They keep switching and without feeling ashamed.
So it's
This is Chinese society, and everybody has this problem. Every family is facing 90%. I would say 90% of the Chinese society or Chinese families have these problems, but they don't talk about it in public. They will probably go and see their close friends, which is maybe one or two ex-classmates from high school or university, and then they complain between four eyes about what's happening in their family. But that's it. They have one or two people They talk about you, but not the others. They don't go. They don't wash their dirty laundry in
I
public.
see. There's going to have to be some research about this at some point. You know, I mean, you can't hide societal problems away forever.
I believe you can. I believe you can, and that's what's China doing. China is hiding. And they're covering
Because
everything.
when we were as we were talking about this, it really starts to seem like all the positive things you hear about Chinese society. Those are the things that people say, but are they really the things that they do? It seems like they break the these kinds of rules that they say a
They can,
family should abide
if
by.
it's convenient, if it's convenient, they break the rules right away.
No.
Yeah, if it's convenient. Like, for example, another friend of mine was saying that he doesn't understand. Like, his wife's grandfather got cancer, and the wife was just like panicking. Oh, cancer, cancer, and we have to go to the hospital and visit him right now. He was like, can we go tomorrow? Or no, no, right now, get dressed, you foreign barbarian. We have to do that. You don't do it in your country, but in my country, this is how we show respect. So, okay, he got dressed. They drove to the hospital. He was lying in bed. All the family, all his sons and daughters around. They talked. Okay, he looked fine, except he had cancer. Then they went home, and since then, she never ever visited him again.
What the hell? Why was
He
it so important at that point?
because
Because
her mother
it
was
seems like he was still alive after that.
he was alive. Her mother was visit. Okay, daughter. Two daughters and two sons. So the mother was going to visit him regularly, but granddaughter never ever went to visit him again, and he died like 2 years later.
So it wasn't
And
like she had to visit him at that time because he was going to die the next day,
I be-
was it?
yeah, yeah, but yeah, I'm trying to explain, how they work. We have to follow the rules now, and suddenly, okay, there are no rules, so forget about it.
Huh.
And he
Okay.
died 2 years later, and she was apparently going for the funeral. And so she left her. He was like, okay, you stay home, you look after the kids. I'm going to the funeral. I don't want the kids. We did never tell the kids. Never tell the kids that he died, okay? Okay, just
I mean,
don't forget.
never tell them, they're gonna ask at some point.
Well, yeah, little kids, they don't have to know, because I don't know, I don't know what the kids would cry or whatever. I'm going to the funeral, okay? Okay, so she left, and she came back in 10 minutes. She was like, it's raining outside.
What the hell?
Yep.
Ever
didn't
ever
know.
heard of umbrellas?
No, they are scared of rain.
What the-
But she just found her excuse that, oh, it's raining. and my mother-
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or another thing about the inheritance. This is just another story. Like, in China, that son inherits everything. The daughters get nothing.
Is it still that way?
So, yeah, still that way. And apparently this friend's Chinese grandfather, before he was dying, he was kind of like shuffling around, Every kid came and he promised, oh, don't worry, you will get the money. And even like years before, he gave one apartment to his oldest son. And just before he died, his final decision, he was like, okay, my kids, when they were around him, he liked when they were fighting for him, because they were actually fighting for the money.
Yeah, I understand. So he
And he was promising them, you will get something, you will get
promising
something. But
them
eventually,
something.
eventually he said, because my oldest son got one apartment, the second apartment I will give to my second son.
Okay.
At that moment, the daughters were like, so nothing for us? No, nothing for you. You're a daughter. You must understand. This is the Chinese habit, Chinese customs. and they kind of understood. They understood. But the oldest son, when he heard that the younger brother will get the second apartment, he started crying. He started crying and begging him to reconsider, and he still wanted more money. One apartment wasn't enough for him.
Wow. Wow. Talk about
shame.
greed.
Money is important. Yeah, everything is about money, and they get crazy when it comes to money. They get kind of crazy. Yeah, that's Chinese society.
It's it's funny. This police lady looks like one of the Canadian Royal Mounted Police.
Yeah,
But you can
mountain
you can
police.
you can see that she's Chinese. She has all the Chinese police insignia, the numbers, the badge, the belt, the shoulder straps.
In fact, she could be Canadian. She could be Canadian, right? No, they're different. They don't have armor like that.
But this is I don't know if this is a real picture, if this is a photo op. But yeah, it seems like they copied this from
They copy everything. Yeah.
the Canadian R
I believe
MCP.
Chinese government
RCMP.
can copy everything except the customs. That's difficult to copy.
Yes, because you have to, change people's minds, and this is not so easy, as we can see.
Yeah, that's right. What is interesting about stories about how the Chinese society is malfunctioning? You don't hear it anywhere.
Yeah, you're right. This is not reported on as much. Maybe.
Who would write about it?
Yeah.
Who would talk about it?
It,
What
it,
for?
it does it does surface up every now and then, but usually it surfaces in some of these terrible stories
Uh,
that come out in the media.
And when you go on YouTube, you hear lots of stories told by so-called white monkeys. They just try. Because they are paid for the stories.
Yeah,
They
now
get paid.
a white monkey job is basically a job that you get in China because you're a foreigner, right? That's the only reason why they use you. But sometimes, for example, this is also used for state propaganda sometimes. The government
absolutely.
can point to foreigners, and they say, well, foreigners also say good things about China and good things about Chinese development, to make it look a little more believable.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, are we going to play this video about a typical white monkey who is paid for his YouTube job?
You can give us a brief overview, sure.
Okay, just 2.5 minutes.
The vast majority of Westerners now have a negative perception of China, but I believe the reason for that is a lack of understanding. You see, it's only natural for us to fear something that we don't understand. But I'm an American citizen that lived in China for over 10 years, and I have a very different perspective than the typical Westerner who fears China, but has yet to spend a single day inside that country. To really understand China, you need to go there. You need to spend time there, and it's even better if you have an opportunity to live there, work there, and see how local Chinese are really adapting. They're adopting and they're growing, and China is one of the fastest growing places in the world. It's an incredible country, but there definitely needs to be better nuance and more understanding. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 10 lessons that I learned from 10 years in China to give you that nuance and experience. The first lesson I learned is the importance of family. You see, for the vast majority of Chinese, they spend most of the calendar year working. It's not uncommon for somebody to work 51 straight weeks and only get a single week of holiday. Now, for many Chinese, they actually leave their small villages and hometowns and they go to the bigger cities. Big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen. They relocate there for work purposes, and only once a year are they able to go back home to their village or their hometown to see their families. The time they make this annual trip is during Chunjie, which is the spring festival and the most important holiday in all of China.
Okay, I feel we have to stop the video for a while because he can sue us for some.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to use it. This is just an example of, a person talking about China and very, unfortunately, very scratching the surface in um,
Yeah.
this kind of very,
Basically,
very simple description.
so far, what I understood is Chinese people like their family so much that they go away from the family for 50 weeks straight. So, and they spend only 1 or 2 weeks with their family at Spring Festival.
This is it sounds comical, doesn't it? But this is how a lot of Chinese people operate if they're migrant workers. They spend most of the year in working in a factory in a large city like in Shanghai or in Shenzhen, and they really might come home once a year for the Spring Festival at the end of January or at the beginning of
He's
February.
contradicting himself. He says
Obviously,
family is very important.
they do. Yeah, the Chinese people, they work in factories because of money, and they ignore the family for the whole year because they have to go out and make money. And they
Yeah, I
come back
understand.
once a
Rather
year,
they
and all of a sudden
can find a
it's
job if they stay home, but they want to earn twice or three times the salary they would earn at home, so they are willing to sacrifice the time with their family for earning twice or three times as much money as they would earn at home.
yeah. I mean, then people come back for the Spring Festival, and oftentimes if they have children, their children are staying with the grandparents for the whole year. And you see these reports sometimes when the parents come, the children are looking at them like, "Who's this?" Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And this is like every family in China leaves the kids at their grandparents. Not like 50%, like every family in China. And the grandparents are happy because they have nothing to do anyway. And the kids just go to work or just do whatever they want to do. And yeah, every family in China does this. Every family in China does this.
it's very common. Yeah.
This is not natural. This is not a typical family unit.
That's
In China,
true. Yeah.
it's
It's not a,
wasn't
it's
like
it's
this.
it's an extended family, sure, but the parents are often absent or are absent sometimes for extended periods of time.
And this causes more tension between a husband and wife. And probably that's why also the
I'm sure it
race,
contributes to that. Yeah.
divorce rate is very high in China.
It seems like we're really bashing the Chinese society here, but that wasn't my original intention, and I'm sure it wasn't yours. I just feel like we have to talk about these problems that exist, and I really hope that things will become better for a lot of
Many
the
young
people who live
people
there.
many young people really hate Spring Festival because they say we have to buy lots of presents for every member of the family, go to visit three uncles and
It's annoying, huh?
four aunts,
Yeah.
and they just during the Spring Festival, which is long, they every day they have to go and visit their relatives if they live far or close, doesn't matter. They have to travel. If they live within like a 2 hour distance by car, they just have to go, bring the presents over, and maybe just stay for their lunch and just drive back. And they just hate it. They say we don't enjoy the Spring Festival anymore because we have to go and
I
visit so many
understand.
relatives,
Yeah.
and it's very expensive. And you even have to go and visit your boss. You don't go inside. You just knock on the door. Hey, boss, I bought you some presents. Okay, just give it to me. Happy Spring Festival.
I see.
Happy New Year.
No,
Okay.
I
See
have
you.
I haven't heard of that, but I have had cases where the boss might give you some very strange presents, like
Yeah,
a
tell me
bunch
about
of
it.
eggs, but not just a bunch, but like a whole carton, things that you can't possibly consume by yourself. That might be okay for a Chinese family, but to give it to
Yeah,
one
that was a
person,
nightmare.
it's really comical.
Yeah, before the Spring Festival, the boss buys, if it's like a small family company, boss must buy presents for every employee. And then during the Spring Festival, the employee goes and just give presents to the boss. But before the Spring Festival, boss just buys, I don't know, for every employee like 300 eggs and 400 liters of oil, cooking oil. And funny thing is, you were also presented with this wonderful gift. Also,
And
you are a foreigner living in China without any family. No thinking, no brain. Just
No,
you
really,
cannot-
really, I don't know if she got too many eggs from a local friend who co-owns a farm, or I don't know.
got some discount, but doesn't matter. But she didn't realize that maybe I should adjust a little bit because Tito is single, a foreigner living in China. What is he going to do? 4 liters of cooking oil? Is he going to take a bath?
It was really funny.
Yeah. What did you do with all the eggs? Did you eat them?
I ate about half of them. Then I wanted to give some to my neighbors, but then I didn't want them to think that it's weird that I'm giving them a lot of eggs. So I gave them to someone in the local market for about I got 100 yuan out of them.
Right. You sold them, huh?
I gave it to them because but I didn't want it to seem like I'm giving them some old rotten eggs. They weren't old, by the way. I just didn't want it to look like that.
Right. But again, like a Chinese customs, and we cannot adjust. Not right, not one step right, not one step left. We have to do it the way
Yeah, it's
I've
funny,
been
isn't
doing
it?
it for the last 15 years.
It's not flexible thinking on the part of some people.
No flexible thinking, exactly. Okay, let's finish this white monkeys video.
Let's have a look.
China. What's incredible is that if you are in China during the Spring Festival, you will be able to witness the largest urban migration in the entire world, with hundreds of millions of Chinese packing into trains, automobiles, cars, planes, whatever they can, and traveling 20, 30, even 40 hours to get back home to spend that holiday with their family.
Wow.
So this is a good thing or bad thing?
it's horrible, at this time yeah, truly the whole country is moving and it's hard to get anywhere.
It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. Sometimes you can't even get a ticket. You need to buy the ticket in advance for the train.
Yeah.
Because everybody's on the train. The whole country is on the train. And what's the good thing about it? Why can't Chinese people, like in other countries, get to decide when they want to spend their holiday? Because in China, it's like, now it's holiday, everybody's on a holiday. Can I get a holiday some other time? No, you can't. You cannot go and travel anytime you decide. It must be the holiday. Chinese people don't get decide when they have a holiday.
There's very there's very few days where companies can apply for a holiday during the year, if the company does in fact allow them to do that.
Maybe some foreign companies, but not Chinese companies.
So
People are
people are
starting to-
kind of stuck with the state holidays.
Yeah, they are stuck with the state holidays. That's it. No other choice. Yeah, of course, if mother is in the hospital or there's a funeral or something, yes, then you get like 3 days. You can go to your boss and say, my mother is in the hospital. Yeah, the boss will will give you leave. But any other day, nope. You just can't. Uh, if you give birth, yeah, you get probably like 1 month or 2 months, and then back to work. There is no maternity leave in China. That's what I want to say. Yeah, well,
it's a lot shorter than in some other countries.
yeah, much shorter. Okay, let's finish this.
Chinese people literally live for Chunjie and the ability to go home and spend that precious time with your family. Now, when I was an expat living in China, I immediately understood just how much more important my family was because I was on the other side of the world and they weren't readily accessible to me anymore. And I made it a goal that when I was living in China, that moving forward, I would prioritize spending time with my family. And every year when I left China to come back home to America, I made a trip back to Iowa to visit my grandmother. And I tell you, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. My grandmother had 20 grandchildren. 19 of them lived in the United States. I was the only one that lived abroad, and I lived on the other side of the planet. But every year, I was the only grandkid that made it a priority to go back to Iowa and visit my grandmother. The other 19 all lived in America. It would have been a very easy trip for them to do, and I'm not trying to sound boastful and say that I'm better than them. I just had a different perspective. I realized by going to China just how important that family is.
Okay. So he's paid for this.
Yeah, entirely possible. Yeah.
No, I know he is. I know he's paid for this. Yeah, he's trying to get back to China, so he can work in the media, so he can continue this propaganda from China.
I mean, obviously, these things are well and true. It's just that maybe the reason why you haven't seen a lot of articles about Chinese society, Chinese modern societies, yeah, because there's really not a lot of information coming out.
No, nothing.
Yeah. I mean,
Zero.
these kinds of articles or very simplistic videos like this, they really just scratch the surface, and I'm really hoping that there can be some more information about what's really under the surface. And what
He's
we can
even
see what is
misleading. No, he was
Yeah,
misleading.
it's a little bit misleading, huh?
It's a propaganda. It's misleading, and he's undermining his own family in America because he's doing it for money.
Well, it's an example of these kinds of videos that that China is happy to show to the outside world because it does look nice. It talks about the positive aspects, but are they really the things that people encounter every day in China? Unfortunately, they're not.
No, they don't. It's difficult life for them, and lots of pressure in their families. So and they break you down. They will eventually get to you. If you live with your family, they will break you down. The only way is just to really live away from them, go to see them time to time, but not too often.
Yeah, I mean, really, the people in China who does seem to be satisfied with their lives, it's oftentimes people who have jobs that allow them to make enough money to be able to live on their own and
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there are people
be
like
independent.
that. Yeah, Chinese people, and then you can see that these people are very different than the other Chinese.
Yes. Yeah.
Doesn't mean they don't love their parents.
Obviously
but,
not. No. But these things are subjective. Some people have great parents. Some people have terrible parents. But there is a societal pressure here. To take care of your parents and grandparents, even, and it's it does stress people out a lot.
It does. It does really can ruin their marriage and sucks their life out of them. And it's very expensive.
Yeah, Yeah.
Very expensive. Yeah, hospitals expensive. Uh, I know there is another thing I wanted to mention when I was talking about like giving birth in China. Like this one child generation just decided that they need a nurse
A
after they give
nurse.
birth. It's not only a nurse. It's a person who cooks for you, cleans for you, and looks after the child.
Wow. Kind of
And
like
it was very
a maid and a nurse.
maid. Yeah, yeah, maid slash nurse, maid slash cook slash nurse, and like it was so common. I don't know how common it is now, but and it wasn't cheap. It was like 8,000, 10,000 RMB for month for half a day work for this nurse. And imagine you give a birth, you have your husband, you have one mother-in-law, one mother, and plus a nurse.
Wow.
How lazy you must be, because
Yeah, that's it's a little excessive, I think. I don't know, but yeah, most people
one
don't have that
reason
much
is
support.
that the Chinese people like following the ways of other people, and they don't want to see.
Oh, right. They don't want to be seem like they're lacking. Yeah, like they're
Yeah,
not
like
as good, not as successful as the neighbors.
I have money, I can do the same thing, and yeah,
Or
I
at least I want to
friend of mine,
show I'm able to do something.
yeah,
I'm
friend
not
of mine
worse
gave
than
birth.
anyone else.
I went to visit
I'm not
her,
worse off.
yeah, and there was just a nurse running around. Like, what is she? She's a nurse. She's helping with the child while I'm sitting here and chatting with you, with my husband. So she's cooking and cleaning and looking after the child.
I've seen this in some richer families, or they might have their own driver and whatnot. Yeah, but I mean, there shouldn't be pressure on other people to do the same thing that they don't have to just because someone who has more money is able to do that.
Right.
Maybe it's not
Right.
that important.
Yeah, correct. Correct. They are just showing off a little bit.
Yeah. There's it's a little bit of that.
Right. Well, okay. So I hope this was very educating what we just talked about. But this is real China. We are not making China look worse. We are just saying how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly hoping that these issues can improve and that there can be better government programs and that the government money be spent in a perhaps a more intelligent way, in a way that might
Yeah.
help the future generations.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
I-
let's see what happens. But I'm afraid that China's society will still take a while to catch up to the developments that have happened in recent years.
Yeah, they will catch up eventually, but slowly, I believe.
So it's going to be interesting to observe.
There will be generational changes. They are not.
I think you're right. Yeah,
Like
as the
that,
generation changes, there will be different different things you will see in the society.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
All right. Well, let's see what happens. Let's see how China will be in the next 20 or 40 years.
I hope it will be better China than it is now.
Well, I'm sure.
And
There have to be some better things to happen in the country, in politics and in society.
I really hope they will start thinking about the real values, the values that matter, not just what it seems on the outside like we care, but inside actually they don't care as much as they say they care. And also the mental health problem is really big and serious in China. So I think China will have to address this problem very soon, or it will get out of control.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And, yeah. All right. Thanks, Tito. Thanks
Well,
talking to
yeah.
you.
Thanks for sharing all of this with me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing with me.
All right. Well, anytime. Well, then I hope you take care of yourself, and I'll see you another time.
Yeah, see you another time, Tito.
Take care.
You too.
See
Bye-bye.
you, Traban. Bye.